Hello, everyone. This is Vernon Stating with Devoted Pawn Consulting, and we're bringing you our first webinar about the Pawnbroker Advisory Conference. There's been a lot of excitement about it, and people are asking a lot of questions that we want to try to cover here on this topic today. We have a lot of speakers and presenters that are going to be here, but a couple of things we want to go over first and foremost is the dates. We're looking at September 10th through the 12th in beautifully warm Clearwater, Florida. I heard it's 81 down there today, and I'm very jealous because I'm up in the cold. But we're excited to have it down there. You can find out more information on our website at pawnconference.com, and we're very, very excited about it. This event really came to be because of three of us organizers that kind of jumped in and wanted to bring this to the pawn industry. Myself, obviously, I own Devoted Pawn Consulting, and we're dedicated to helping the pawn industry improve and make more money and be more successful. And that's also the mission of Pawn Master, who is also one of the organizers. Len and his team strive every single day to go the extra mile for people that aren't even their clients in this industry. And we really appreciate that about them. And then we've brought in Hall of Fame Financial and some of her folks that we're going to talk to here to do some different presentations on wealth management. And I'm really excited about this because it's something that does not really exist in this industry or in this business. And of course, we couldn't do it without sponsors. This event is going to be vendorless. So one of the things that is not going to happen is you are not going to get pitched to or sold to by the hundreds of vendors that tend to come to these different conferences and conventions. So to do that, we've elicited the help of some of the sponsors. And our three sponsors are Bluestone Trading Company, United Precious Metals, and Wexler Insurance out of Florida. And those are three of the biggest names in the industry, and we're excited to have them on board. So we're going to start interviewing, and we're going to go through some of our presenters here today. And first up, we have Len Suma and his team from Pawn Master, and they're going to talk a little bit about the two different presentations that they're going to be doing at this event. And they're going to be talking on the topics of marketing your pawn shop and also online sales, both of which I think they are definitely experts at. So I want to introduce you to Len Suma. Say hi, Len.
Hey, Vernon.
And we also, I believe, have Christian Steinbach. Is that correct?
Hello, Vernon. Yep, I'm here.
Hello. Hello. So tell us a little bit. I think we'll start with Len. Tell me a little bit about your background and this event as it relates to this event, and what do you think is going to happen? Love to hear a little bit about your background.
Absolutely, Vernon. So, I've been in the industry well over 25 years, and as everyone may or may not know, I was also a small business owner in a previous life. So, my background in software is very wide, and obviously in the last couple of years, e-commerce in connection with marketing, social media, customer service, all that good stuff. That's all intertwined, and that's what I'll be able to bring to the table in terms of this conference, which we are very, very excited about. That along with doing about $1 million a month. Our customers do about $1 million a month in online sales. So I think it's going to be really important to be able to discuss strategies and use cases. So that's my background.
Yeah,
excited.
I agree, and I think to your point, I think the e-commerce side is something that is one of the hottest topics right now that people are excited and asking questions about. And honestly, it's probably because in our experience, maybe 10 to 20% of pawn shops that are out there really even utilize online sales. So I think that's going to be huge. And of course, the marketing piece of it is always a big deal. They never understand what type of marketing should work or what is working for other people. And it's hard when you're isolated. You're kind of on your own. You don't know who else to ask for help in those scenarios. So, and that's kind of a nice segue over to Christian. From the marketing background, we'd love to hear a little bit about your background and what you do at Pawn Master.
Sure. So I've been in marketing and design for the past 15 years, and I've mostly worked in in the small business industries within the small business kind of family-run businesses, with a focus on public education and small business marketing. So right now, my co-manager here at the marketing department at DNH, Eric Williams, and I kind of split up and take reign here as far as it goes, figuring out different ways that we can market ourselves, and also bringing to our client base ways for them to better market themselves as small businesses.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I know that you do a great job at PondMaster, giving tons of different free education out there through the different formats that you guys have. And I'm excited to see, how that relates to this convention and what you guys are going to bring to the table. So you guys obviously attend conventions every year. One of the questions that people ask is, well, do these folks attend other conventions? Are they well versed in educating people, that kind of stuff? And so, Len, if you want to start a little bit with your history with Data Age, and typically how many conventions you and your company attend each year.
Yeah, sure. So I've been with Data Age for 7 years now. I mean, the time goes by really, really quick. And, my first show was the MPA Expo, which is it's a great show. It's a great venue. It serves a purpose in the industry. So as an organization, we attend between 3 and 4 events every year. They tend to be very similar in nature because of the geography. Not a lot of people can, get to the big event at that particular time of the year. So we're pretty versed in a lot of the events that go on. And believe it or not, there are so many of them. But they're, like I said, they're very similar in nature.
Yeah, and you guys attend pretty much just about all of them. I see you and you guys there all the time. And I know, Christian, you typically, I think, come to just some of the bigger ones. But I'm curious, you typically attend NPA, I think, and I'd like to hear a little bit more about that, what you do there, because I think it also ties into marketing and some of the stuff you're going to be talking about.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, when I do normally only attend the NPA when I do go out, because to be honest, it's kind of tough for me to get out of the office to do these events, only because my responsibilities here during the week. But when I do get to go out, it's in order to kind of press hands with our current client base and get to actually sit down face to face with them and kind of get their take on their experience with the software, their suggestions. So it's a great face to face time, because we field a lot of calls from our clients on a weekly basis about how can I better market myself? What am I not doing online? Where am I kind of lacking? As well as talking to shops who are doing the right thing and having them actually create content for us that then we can share out to everybody else and say, here's how this person's marketing on Facebook. Follow these steps and you could see an increase of X, Y, Z. So just to kind of make the connection between people, get to meet people that are doing the things the right way, and kind of building that base of expertise on the pawnbroker side that we can then go back and present to everybody else is very important.
That's awesome. You guys do a great job. So, the next obvious question is, why this event? This is something that has not been done before. There's never been, to my knowledge, a conference or convention in this industry that does not have a vendor forum in it. And, why this event, Len?
When I heard about this event, it really hit home, because, and like I said, we're a for-profit organization too, so we go to a lot of these events, and there's a lot of posturing and positioning going on. I mean, that's par for the course, and that's why we're all in business. But I do think there is an opportunity to fill a real void in our industry, especially from a guy like me coming from the outside in. Although I think 7 years got me a lot of experience, but, the ability to just, take the colors off, get in a room with folks, and just have some real deep discussion about topics that some are old, some are new. When you eliminate that posturing and the positioning, you could really then have a clear path of, what's right for my business. I think you alluded to, the vendors and the pitches. That's what really got me excited about this in terms of being a speaker, to come in there. And I don't care what point of software system you're using. It's not about that. I also have concerns about, getting the right information, especially we just talked about e-commerce. There's no magic bullet. It's part of a bigger strategy, and I think that's a topic that I'm really looking forward to driving. But also, just even for myself as a former business owner and someone who, works with a lot of people on a daily basis, the succession and wealth planning aspect of this really just blew my mind. I'm not going to lie to you. It is not spoken about. And quite frankly, as a former business owner, if I had a better sense, possibly my succession into another industry would have been a lot smoother. So pretty excited about all of that. And, just moreover, it's different.
Yeah, I am too. I'm excited about it, and I'm glad you are, and I knew that you would be, just how you're always willing to give up your services to help other people, like I said earlier, even if they're not even clients. And I think, Christian shares your philosophy. I want to hear, kind of from your perspective, why this event as well.
Yeah, I mean, I have to I'll have to echo Len, because really it is the fact that this is not an event that's totally based on coming to see a vendor, and it's more of an educational. I mean, I think every time I've been to the NPA or having people come back from, talking with the people who've been to other conferences and stuff, what they say most of the people there are talking about is what they've taken away during the educational aspect of the show. It's great to go out and see your provider. It's great to go out and see your refiner. But when those are the people that are at every show and you're coming across multiple times a year, having something that can offer a true one-off experience to people in this industry is huge, because they're not getting this sort of education somewhere else, and it's not being offered in an accessible way anywhere else like it is at this convention. So, I mean, it's just a huge thing that being able to, especially with my background in education, and being able to turn around and show, have that ability to have these people in one place and be able to kind of overload them with this information that they can then take back and retain is huge.
Yeah, you want to give them that takeaway. I agree. Well, in closing, if you guys can briefly tell us, how do you help, how do you see this helping the pond industry? Because that's one of the biggest questions we're getting asked right now. How are you going to be different? And how do you see this helping the industry? So, real briefly, if you have a summary or a wrap up on that, I'd love to hear it from each one of you. We'll start with you, Len.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's pretty easy. There are a lot of new challenges out there. There are a lot of old challenges out there. Being able to have open, dialogue on these and getting real use case experiences from a multitude of areas, I mean, that's a win-win situation. And like I stated before, the takeaway is let's just get people thinking. Let's get people collaborating. Just to echo what Christian just said, a lot of what we hear in the hundreds of events we've ever done is a lot of pawnbrokers like to get together and meet other pawnbrokers, from different geographies and things of that nature. So, for me, it's more of, piecing together, what's been working over many, many years with some of the new methodologies that folks are using across the nation and quite frankly, globally. So, I mean, it's a whole different landscape these days. And I think just attacking that in a different way puts everyone in the best possible position for success. So really, really excited. And I think the group, as I get to learn more and more about the people who are presenting, I think everyone's going to really, walk away with a lot of information that moreover they can actually apply.
I agree. I think, obviously with the response we've seen already, this is something we're going to do annually. So I'm pretty excited about that. And your thoughts, Christian, your closing thoughts?
Well, again, with what we've been trying to do recently is kind of do more of a focus on the educational aspect of things. And we've not been restricting ourselves to just people using our software or even people using software in general. What we're trying to do is a broad reach across the industry, where people can read an article or watch a video that we put out and say, have that light bulb go off and say, oh yeah, this applies to me too, even though I may not be a PondMaster customer, but this is still good information. So this is kind of that on a huge or larger scale, where you're in person, where that industry-wide information can be passed down to you again. And I mean, I think it's just great to be able to, especially with like the focus on the wealth management, like Len said earlier, that's not something that people in this industry get a lot without them themselves going out and doing the legwork in order to research it and get in touch with people. So being able to offer that, that in-person experience is huge.
I agree with you, and that's the reason why I brought the wealth management folks into this field, because it just does not exist in this industry, which has always baffled me. So I appreciate it, gentlemen. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it. We're excited about your guys' presentations at this event. Obviously, 2 of the top 5 so far as it's voted upon. And so we're excited about what you guys bring to the table, and we appreciate you being part of this and donating your time in that sense. Thank you very much. And we are going to move on to our next presenter. We've got Dave Griffiths, who's going to talk a little bit about pond compliance. So how are you doing today, Dave?
I do well, thank you.
Very good. We're glad to have you here. I'm excited about this one. I about jumped out of my skin when I found out that someone like you existed. This is a topic that, my clients, when I asked, I'm like, who do you use for compliance? Your name kept coming up. And so I had to reach out to you, and I'm definitely glad I did. So I'm excited about having you on board with this, and I want to hear a little bit about your background. Tell us, I know you've been in the business for a long time, but I'd love to hear from you.
Well, I'm an entrepreneur at heart, and for years I managed steakhouse restaurants, and I did even nursing homes for a while. And I got tired of making money for other people. So in '96, I opened my own pawn shop in California with some friends. And then after that, realized I wanted to do it by myself and moved all the way to Oregon like every other Californian, and took it from there. So did that for 12, 15 years, got involved in the industry, heavily involved in the Oregon Pawnbroker Association board, secretary, treasurer, involved in helping with legislation at the state level, involved in the Washington Pawnbrokers Association, and to some degree member in California and help them with their programs that they do as well. So I love, I got away from the pawn business itself and got out of it and into the compliance part, because I saw that there was really not a lot of people doing that, and there's less than a handful of us across the country that do it. So that's an entrepreneur's dream right there.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, there's nobody, I don't think, that specializes just in pawn. And, to me, that's a big deal with the way banks are treating us lately. They think that we're, payday lenders and that kind of stuff. They think we're really high risk. And as you know, I've gotten a lot of phone calls from our clients that are saying, hey, my bank has given me 30 days to find another lender. And that's problematic. That's a big problem. So I'm excited about that piece of it for you as well. And it's great that you love what you do, because it's not something that the pawnbrokers love. So when you can come in and bring in that passion, that's awesome. So how many events do you attend typically per year?
Well, I'm always at Oregon and Washington's events. I try and hit at least one of the California events, depending on my schedule, and then at least one of the majors. So this year it'll be NPA, Pawn Expo, and then our event in Clearwater. Hopefully next year I can throw Dixie in the mix. So we'll see how that works.
Yeah, I know that's awesome. And I know you're gradually moving east. So it's always fun to be on the West Coast and move east with the time changes and all that kind of fun stuff. Well, we're excited, definitely excited to have you moving east. And I know you've already had some of our clients that you've worked with on the East Coast. So it's definitely not out of the mix. And Dixie's a great convention. We weren't able to attend this year, but that's definitely a good one. So what made you think about this event, and, why it would be good, why you wanted to be part of it? We'd love to hear that, and so would the pawnbrokers.
Having been a part of the different events that I've gone to, it seems like there's so many things that you're trying to juggle. And on the smaller events, you're trying to deal with agendas that you're dealing with, driving legislation in your state, and fundraising to keep your association alive. So the smaller events tend to be focused on that more than anything. Then you get to the bigger events that are now doing a lot of fundraising. They're trying to get the vendors in there. You've got all these breakout sessions, and you have to pick and choose between which sessions you go to. And I just thought, this is really great. You don't have all the extra stuff that's going on. You still get to network with people. But in this case, you're talking about things that are full spectrum. This is everything that people are thinking about. Everybody gets in the pond business and goes, this is cool. I could make money. This is really, I got customers that drove Snap-on trucks. And one of their friends told them, well, yeah, I'd be a pond broker. And so they did. And they struggle. It's not the same as driving a Snap-on truck. So you've got to, and these guys don't have any idea what they're going to do, how they're going to sell their business when they get to that point, what they're doing with all the money that's going through their hands right now. How do they best put themselves up for retirement? That's just right now we're so focused on making money and keeping up with synthetic diamonds and all that's going on. Everything that's changing. How do you even think about all this other stuff? And then that compliance gets into that part too. So this allows people to sit and just take a breath and listen to what's going on around them. They don't have to fight for which one of the events do they want to go to. They can hear every single person speak. And I think what's neat about it is these people are here because they want to know more. They all are of the same mind. When you get to a smaller convention or like the state stuff, you're getting a conglomeration of everybody, and they're all of different mindsets, and they're kind of spending their time looking for who is just like them that they can talk to, or that's their networking is that. This is going to give everybody is kind of at the same mindset that's coming into this event. I think that's exciting to be part of.
Yeah, and you touched on some key points there that I'm excited about. There is no competing speakers, so to speak. I mean, we're going to be at the Midwest Convention, and one of the things that I dislike about that, although I think it's one of the best conventions out there, is that I'll be presenting at the same time as somebody else. And so that's a challenge because sometimes you both might have a great topic, and you as the pawnbroker have to choose between who you want to visit, and that's not a good thing. You want as much education as you can be. So our format is also going to be very different. There's going to be no breakout sessions. Everybody's going to be in the same session all at once, getting the same education with the opportunity to collaborate. And in fact, we're going to be collaborating as we start putting these presentations together. We're going to be including a lot of collaboration at the tables and people talking and working together. And I think you're right. As often as these folks get together, they also need to have some education that's not in the sense of, hey, I'm going to give you this so that I can sell you my services. It's just based upon education. So I appreciate your thoughts on that. And, from a closing standpoint, I'd love to know what you think as far as, how is this going to change the industry, or how do you see it shaping the industry or changing in that way?
Well, I think you see attendance at a lot of these events going up that are being offered across the country. And I think there's people that are out there looking, and I think things keep coming up. In my particular world, like you had mentioned earlier, it's the idea of the compliance piece where, banks are shutting people down. And, that never happened before. We didn't have the synthetic diamond problem before. We didn't have a lot of these issues. We didn't have the brick and mortar issues that we have now that Lynn and his group are taking care of. These are things that they keep coming up, and the pawnbroker who was doing this 40 years ago, they have got to change the way they do things, or they're going to be out of business. So this gives them that place to go to. And I think I think they're going to have to use a mix of both, but I think ultimately the education piece is what people do come to. It's like what they said before was, you get to see your vendors, you get to see your friends and all that, but what you come away with is the learning piece, and most of that is the education piece. It's not about fundraising and all that. This is going to give people an opportunity to just really focus on what is being said, and you've created such a great cross-section of topics. And some of your, one of your attenders has incredibly gray hair, unfortunately. I
think that'd be you.
Yeah, it would be. But the idea is, you've got so many different topics that apply to every single person here. and we're going to talk about risk aversion and all that. Everybody brings different. It comes from a different place, but they're all going to leave with the same information and how they can apply it to themselves. They're not going to get that with all of the other white noise that goes on at the other events. So I just really think this is going to make a change for everybody.
I agree. Yeah, I think it's going to be totally different. And the reason why we did it this way is we actually do it this way in other industries that we consult in, and we've been incredibly successful at educating the business owner. And not only that, but showing them and connecting them with people that can help them with their need. If it's not something that I can do, like in the case of compliance, I can refer them to you, and they can rest assured that you're the best in the business and there's no kickbacks included in that. That's not what we're about. So I appreciate your time, Dave. I'm excited about your presentation, and just having you as part of this group, I think, has been phenomenal so far, and I'm excited about more of that. So I appreciate that very much. Thank you for being on here, and we're going to hear more from you in the future, definitely. So I appreciate it. We're going to move on to another huge topic, which is preparing to sell your pawn shop, which is a huge one right now. And we've got Mr. Stalcup on the line, and I want to talk to him a little bit and get a little background from him. But I'm excited as he gets ready to join us here. I'm excited to put in a little plug for him. This is one of the topics that I get asked about every single time that I do consulting with pawn shops. They're always asking me, do you have brokerage services? How much is my business worth? How do I get ready to sell? What do I do after I sell? All those kinds of questions. And it's a lot. And it's not something that most people prepare for, unfortunately, until they're either forced with having to sell or they're just at a point where they don't want to continue with it. So I'm excited. Welcome, Steve. We're glad you're here.
Thank you. Good to be here, Vern. Appreciate the opportunity to talk to everybody.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. So give us a little bit of background on yourself. I know you've been in the industry forever and even worked for some of the big guys, so I'd love to hear a little bit more about you.
Yeah, you bet. So really, this is all I've done. For the last 33 years, I've been in the pawn shop industry. I started with one of the publics with Cash America, and I've had VP positions in operations. I ran over 130 stores. Training in the communications world, I was handling that department for them. And then most recently, when I left in 2009, 5 years prior to leaving in 2009, I was the VP of mergers and acquisitions. So I saw the M&A world in the pawn industry from the buyer perspective. And so all three of those areas, operations, training, human resources, and then mergers and acquisitions, that's what I roll into my strategy when I talk to folks about this topic about being prepared for the business, for selling your business. And I kind of dialed that up a little bit more and switched the other side of the transaction about 10 years ago. And in 2009, I started Stalcup Group, and now I represent sellers. So I took all that I had, all that I learned in the 23 years with Cash America, and kind of deployed that into my business model and my strategy with representing sellers when they're ready to exit.
Yeah, and that's great because you understand all sides of it, and you understand the angst that they have from an operations standpoint. And I think the other thing that's interesting is, when I got into this into the pawn world, I actually got in through merger and acquisition too. But what I disliked was the brokering of the deals and all that kind of stuff. What I loved about was getting in there and getting my hands dirty in the operations and getting them to be as profitable as possible, or as soon as possible. And so you and I are a nice complement in that sense. But on the flip side of it too, my understanding would be you'd probably have the ability to say, if you did this in your operations, that's going to drastically change how much your business is worth, right?
Well, that's absolutely right. And I think that's one of the most misunderstood things when they're ready to sell, ready to exit the business, and you're considering your options. Unless you're going to do this forever, which I don't think anybody wants to stay in the pawn business forever and ever. And they may even think that they're going to pass it along to their children, and that's an option always that you can consider. But what we want to bring, and what I want to stress to everybody is that know your options. Don't think that you don't have another option. Just even though you may think you're leaning towards giving your business to your children, but you need to look at all of the options. But as far as when you drive up to a store or you have a chain of stores, you need to look at it if you're thinking about exiting the business. think about it from the buyer's perspective, because the buyer is really the one you're going to be going to battle with, and that's really what it is. It's a battle on every front. Everything you negotiate, everything is a negotiation, especially if you own the building. There's going to be a lease discussion or even a sale negotiation. But there are some levers you can pull, some things you can do. But beyond that, the things that you need to prepare for is the strategy before you engage with buyers. And there's a lot of things that we will cover at the show, at the expo, and that's what we want to share with you. But it's not just a strategy about how your store looks, if your numbers are in order, and are we buttoned up in all of the areas. That's obviously where you definitely want to cover all those. But there's a strategy and a methodology and a sequence by which that you go attack the negotiations, and those are the things that we'll cover in the time allotted in September. So we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, and I'm excited for it too, because those are the things that bring anxiety to our clients, and the other thing that brings anxiety to them is the fact that, this is their baby, and, they've had it for 30 or 40 years. It's been in the family, and now they're at a point where they're going to sell it, and someone's going to come in and talk about, well, I don't like this, or I don't like that, or it's only valued at this in our mind. And that becomes an emotional thing too, outside of the business world. And so I would assume that becomes challenging as well.
Absolutely, it is. There is the emotional aspect of it. Almost without fail, there's always seller's remorse that I see, and there's the emotional factor of will your employees be taken care of. But there are also some things you can do to make sure that those things are going to happen the way you want them to. But it is a high anxiety time. There's bad information out there. I mean, I've done, like I said, doing this. I'm on my 33rd year, and I guess specifically in the M&A world since '05, and I hear all of the crazy bad information that's out there, and we want to kind of right that. But when you're sitting there trying to value your business or think what it's worth, and you hear these different strategies of methodology of valuation of your business, it scares me. It's really scary, and I know businesses are sold on those principles, and so we're trying to get the word out and make people understand whether you use us to help you or not. You need to know these things that you have to do, and we've provided a checklist. It's up on our website and so forth. There's things you want to go through and make sure that you do these, no matter what you do. But it is a time of high anxiety, and there's a right way and a wrong way of doing it, and you don't want to get wrapped up in all the bad information, bad advice that's out there. And most people don't even know the intrinsic value add items that are part of their business, their pawn shop. Whether it's one store or 15 stores, there are things that you haven't thought of that you really should look at as a value add and monetize, and then factor that into your sequence negotiation. So there's a lot more to it.
I agree.
Than people think.
Yeah, I agree, and I appreciate what you said so much, because honestly, there is a lot of misinformation out there, and you can probably believe what we hear out there in this industry about what their business is worth or what people's opinion of what it's worth. And there's so much misinformation, which is why I push pretty hard to bring you in, to get you in here. And I didn't have to twist your arm too much, thankfully, but I'm glad to have you as part of this deal and get you into this group, because I think there's so much education that needs to be passed down. And, speaking of education, I know you're at NPA every year. I want to talk a little bit about that when you're at NPA, and, if you're going to maybe attend some other expos or what kind of your history is with that.
Sure. Yeah. So I've attended the NPA, I guess, every single year that I've been on the sell side of the business. I really didn't do so when I was with Cash America, but since '09, I've been there every year. And I've done a couple of regional shows, and I wish I could do them all. I just don't. I pretty much do the NPA Expo, and that's it. And that's really because I want to be there and do them all, and I can't do them all because, when you're selling, we sold 4 companies the first part of this year, the first quarter of this year, and there's not a schedule. It's really an ad hoc type schedule. It's not written in stone, and it's very fluid. And so I found myself signing up for some of these regional shows and just having to cancel or back out at the last minute, and it's not worth doing. And I don't want to send someone else to represent me, in what I say, because it's a very personal type message that I have for sellers that are seriously considering. So I just do the NPA, but I'm looking forward for this to be the second one I do, the number 2 show of the year, and hopefully there'll be a lot more of these that you put on, and I'm part of it.
Yeah, there definitely will, I think, based on the excitement. And so, it's a good segue into, kind of why this event. I mean, if you've done, NPA and some others when you can, I mean, why did you set aside this time to do that?
Sure.
Our listeners are curious.
Well, I mean, you and I have been talking for a year or 2 years at least, I think, and you have a great reputation out there. It all comes back positive when I hear people talk about you and your company. So I think you have that credibility when you're putting this thing together. So I want to be part of that. I think that's an exciting piece, and all the things the other guys covered. There's a lot of noise in the other shows, a lot of big time shows, and you have competing events, breakout events. But I think the folks that really do want to learn about these topics, they're going to be at this show, at this program, and I think that says a lot. It's going to be a very good message, concentrated message, and they're there for a reason. And there's something, one or all of the topics that they want to hear about, and they're going to have an opportunity to see that and hear and talk directly with us. So I'm looking forward to it.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too, and I appreciate that. I mean, all the stuff that it's good to know that people talk highly of us because they speak highly of you as well, and that's who we want to surround ourselves with, people that can change this industry for good. And so, lastly, I mean, your last thoughts, kind of closing thoughts, how do you think this event will help the industry and the education around it?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I just think when you look at the topics, those are topics that aren't that every single business owner in this industry has to deal with at one point or another. And so I think that's a good opportunity. They're going to get to hear all of them and not just have to pick and choose. And I think when you have that group of pawnbroker business owners that are going to be focused on those things, and they're there to learn. They're there for a reason, and there's not a lot of this other activity going on that may detract from the message. But and this is a great lineup. I applaud you. Hats off to you. It's really quality folks you have, and they're experts in their own field. And so I think that's the thing that's going to separate this group from this show from the other ones. And I'm just excited to be part of it. And I think that it's going to be a very high intense value add opportunity for these business owners to learn about critical strategies.
I agree, and I like what you said in the sense that I think the cream always rises to the top, and I'm excited about the talent. They always want to, good people always want to be around other good people, and that's really, I believe, how this event came to be. I definitely can't do it all on my own, and I'm excited about you and the other presenters that we have, and there's even more that are going to be on this call today. But I'm excited about it. We appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us here today. And we're excited about hearing more about your topic as it comes a little bit closer to this summer and into September. So thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Appreciate it.
All right. We're going to, yeah, no problem. Thank you. We're going to move on to our next speakers, where we're going to be talking about how to take advantage of tax breaks and benefits that are out there. And I'm really excited about this topic. We've got Neil and Fred on the line that are going to be talking a little bit about their background and how it relates to this industry. But as a little preface to this, as they get ready to talk, one of the things that we've said over and over again is that this really does not exist in the industry. And it's really interesting when I work in other industries with our parent consulting firm, Devoted Enterprises, we see people taking advantage of tax breaks, but I don't see that in the pawn industry. And I'm excited about what these guys can bring to the table. And so I want to get a little bit of background from you guys and welcome you to this first webinar here. And we've got Neil and Fred.
Thank you. Good to be here.
All right. Yeah, so I think we're going to have Neil kick us off. You want to give us a little bit of background on you guys and your experience, and we'll take it from there.
Okay. Actually, I was introduced to this by Kathy Gumbiner with Hall of Fame Financial. And when she told me about this, the first thing that occurred to me was I needed to reach out to Fred Sade. Fred is a colleague and a confederate of mine. We've worked together for several years, and specifically working on various cases with small business or with families. Together, we have between 65 and 70 years of combined experience in financial services. And in particular, Fred brings a wealth of experience working with small business owners, but he also has a PhD in economics from Duke University. So from understanding the big picture, he's second to none. So I just had to get Fred involved in this. We work primarily with families and small business owners with strategies to both accumulate wealth and transfer it away from family-held business in a tax-advantaged way. And it's interesting, as I was sitting here listening to you talking with Steve Stalkup, talking about selling your business, which seems like a theme within this industry, it occurred to me that there are really three different values that small business owners have when it comes to selling their business. The first is their intrinsic value or their economic value. What's the business worth? The second one is the market value. What's someone willing to pay for it at the end of the day? I mean, that's really the bottom line when you're trying to sell your business is, can someone or is someone else willing to pay for it? But the third and also very important consideration is, what is the business worth to Uncle Sam? And as you all know, as small business owners, Uncle Sam is a silent partner who stands over your shoulder and is willing to step in and take from the till frequently, starting with sales tax. But it doesn't end by any stretch of the imagination. And we always believe it's not what you make that counts as a small business owner, it's what you keep that counts at the end of the day. So what we're trying to do here is to help you structure your business and your wealth strategies in such a way that you keep more.
Yeah, and that's great. I like what you said about Uncle Sam because, you know, as a business owner, once again, I need to even get more engaged with you guys because, you know, it seems like I'm paying in every year. I need to have more opportunity and more options in that scenario. And it's true when you sell and you have a large business that you're selling and you've got a lot of money that's coming in for that sale, what do you do from the tax side of it? But in general, as your business grows and you start to make more money, what should you be doing with it? How do you keep more money in your pocket? That's very interesting. And it sounds like Fred might be the smartest guy in the room at our convention in Clearwater. I'm in Florida. I'm a little nervous. What do you have to add about your background, Fred, that we haven't heard yet?
Well, the only couple of things that I might add to what I thought was Neil's very excellent presentation was that right now taxes are on sale. Mm-hmm. And they're going to be on sale for at least 2 more years, and we will have to see obviously what happens, but you have to act on the basis of what you know and what's in front of you, and not on all the might be's. So when Neil points out that it's not what you earn, it's what you keep, that's very relevant for a business owner, because business owners don't often distinguish, you know, their retirement value or from the value of the business. They seem to combine the two, and it's important to be able to separate them, because there are things that you can do for the individual and there are things that you can do for the business. And some of that can be, I don't want to step on anybody's toes, of course, but some of that can be wrapped up in the exit strategy and how you get your equity out. And to the extent that you can get that equity out tax-free, you're way ahead of the game than someone that has to pay ordinary income or capital gains above basis on the value of the business that's not already been depreciated, especially when you have real estate, and real estate becomes very tricky because of depreciation. So I think that you know, for now at least, I think that helps wrap up where I would be coming from, and then we would also look and be Neil's area to do. We can look at the individual side of this and draw that separation. Because the individual assets as well as business assets are both in play, and to be able to take advantage of the lowest tax rates that we have ever seen, and we haven't seen the Mellon tax reform in 1925. Any of us were around. Right.
Yeah, none of us are around for that.
No, but considering that these are the lowest tax rates that we these tax rates are lower than any tax rate that existed in the 20th century, except for that brief period, and the lowest tax rates that we have now for some period of time. So that's where I would leave it.
Yeah, no,
Sorry.
I agree, and I like what you. No, you're good. I like what you said because to me, the two things that stood out there is the difference, and you've got to have a plan from from an individual standpoint, but you also have to have an idea and a plan from the business standpoint, and then those are also two separate. How do you keep more of what you make in that sense? The other thing is, that the tax side of it. There's a lot of misinformation, as you guys know. I'm not telling you anything that you don't know. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and there's also a lot of fear and sometimes fear mongering, which gets people even stressed out or too stressed out to even have a conversation with folks like you. So I'm excited to get you guys in front of the group. I know you haven't been to an event before, but why this event? I want to know kind of a little bit of background, and I think maybe Neil will kick off on that too. But why this event? Why part of it? And ultimately, before you answer that, one of the things that, is my goal in this deal is I'd like to get you guys more exposure into the national arena so that you guys can be part of not only locally where you guys are individually, but also part of the national scene because, like I said, this just does not exist in this industry. So why do you like being part of this event?
Well, that's a great question. This is actually our first foray into working with this industry. And it sounds to me like this is an underserved industry when it comes to financial services. So that, to me, spells opportunity, which is really exciting to be able to be a part of something and hopefully to provide a resource that you haven't had heretofore. So that's the long and the short of it is we just see there's tremendous opportunity here in an underserved industry.
Yeah, I agree. I think.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Fred. No, go ahead, Fred. I cut you off.
No, I was just going to say that from a compliance standpoint, it's much easier to turn your back on an industry that handles cash. Because the compliance burden is immense, and sometimes you can't even surmount that burden. So why not deal with an industry that doesn't have as much compliance from our standpoint? And so we looked at this as an opportunity to understand what we don't know and what we need to figure out and how to make it work.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I think that's super intelligent response to that because there is so much misinformation outside of our industry about who we are and what this industry is about that I think a lot of people are scared to get involved with it. So I think that's a great response. And I cut you off there, Neil. Go ahead.
Well, I just think it's interesting that you're talking about compliance now. And that's one of the things that I've learned, and as part of this conversation about your industry, is that compliance is becoming much more of an issue. And of course, Fred and I know compliance well. That's something that we're all too familiar with in our business. So it's just interesting to hear how your business owners are dealing with this now, and how you're trying to navigate that.
Yeah, it's very new. It's not something that even existed 10 or 15 years ago, and so it's very, very new. And it's kind of a nice segue into like our final question. I mean, what do you think could be the long-term effect or help of getting folks like you involved in this industry through this event and beyond? I'd love to kind of understand or get your thoughts on that, both of you.
Well, I guess to answer that question, it just reminds me of a story that I heard about some friends that were going to Hawaii, and they were going on vacation. So they jumped on the plane and started west, and they were about an hour out over the water, having left the West Coast, and suddenly the pilot comes on and announces, "I've got good news and I've got bad news, folks. The bad news is our compass is out and we have no clue where we are. But the good news is at 550 knots, we're making good time." So I think the moral to the story is we see if we can help provide a compass so that if you're making good time, at least you're moving in the right direction. That's where we can add value.
Yeah, I love it.
Fred, do you have any
closing
follow-up
thoughts on that, Fred? Yeah.
That's a great story.
Still laughing.
Yeah, I am. That's a great story. The other thing that I would say is I like to quote Judge Leonard Hand. It's a great name for a judge. He never made it to the Supreme Court. He was in the D.C. Circuit, but he's quoted more on tax policy than any other judge who's ever served. And Judge Hand said that there's no patriotic duty to pay more in taxes than anybody is obligated to pay, as long as we arrange our affairs legally. And I think that is our approach. We don't want to make our client famous, but we don't want our clients to pay more than they have to pay unnecessarily in taxes, and in order to be able to build wealth, not just for themselves, for their family, build a legacy for the causes and charities that they care about.
Yeah, I think you're dead on with that. You know, these folks are some of the hardest working individuals that I've ever worked with, and we work in, you know, resorts and franchises as well in our parent company. And one of the things that I cannot believe is these guys will work 70 or 80 hours a week, if not more. And we want to help them, you know, save money and save that kind of money and let them do the things they want and be able to retire well. And that's why we brought folks like you in. So I thank you for being part of this group. And I know that we're going to hear from Kathy next. But I'm excited about having you guys on tour with this. You're going to love Florida if you haven't spent any time down there. It's my favorite resort. And so thank you for being part of this. Thanks for being on the webinar today. And we will definitely hear more from you guys in the future. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Vernon.
Thank you. Now we get to talk to Miss Kathy. I like Kathy a lot. She's one of my favorite people of all time. How are you?
Oh, you know what, Vernon? You know
I'm excited. Yeah, I'm excited.
You know
I got you on this side of it now. I was kind of on the other side.
I love it. They did such a great job. Fred, Neil, thank you so much. I mean, I'm really excited to have them down there, and I'm really excited that they agreed to be a part of this. So it's exciting.
Yeah, so our listeners want to know about you. Obviously, you're one of my favorites, but they don't know as much about you. Obviously, you're new to the industry. We do a lot of work with you outside of it at our Devoted Enterprises level. But the Devoted Pawn Consulting is just starting to get to know you, and so are our clients. So tell them a little bit about your background and what you do. We'd love to hear it.
Certainly. I'd be happy to. Well, I am shocked to have to say that I've been in the financial services industry for 20 years now. It's just whoa. But that means also that my youngest child will be 20 tomorrow, because he was an infant when I started it. So I was like, oh my gosh. But I grew up on home office learning, and what I did was literally to learn about life insurance and annuities and retirement and making sure you don't run out of income. I mean, the number one fear that people have is actually public speaking. So get ready, everybody, when we're there. Just know that we're all afraid. But actually,
I like it.
It's not public speaking. It's running out of income. So ever since I started learning about that and really knowing the impact that it can have on us, I mean, when you work so hard all your life, you build a nest egg, you have money at risk. Like in 2008, do you know how many people actually had to not retire or go back to work because they lost 50 or 60% of what was in their 401ks? So I'm very passionate about making sure people know what kind of products are out there, what kind of people they should be talking to, because a lot of people think, I'm older, I need, a wealth manager, I need some, but it's not always just that. It's like making sure you have the right vetted person that matches your personality. So I grew up, like I said, in the home office side of it. Always worked with the field. So guys like Fred and Neil, I've been really fortunate to be able to work with them all across the country. I've done workshops, teaching them on how to position the best products, teaching them how to market. But more so, what I've been really fortunate about is being able to work with people that I value and that I trust.
Well, and I'm excited. I couldn't think of anybody better to spearhead. When I knew that we wanted to have wealth management and all that entails within this conference, I knew that I needed to reach out to you, because not only do we work with you, with the celebrities and the athletes and high net worth individuals, but honestly, a lot of these pawnbrokers are some pretty high net worth individuals as well, and they deserve the best that's out there. And so that's why you're here. So I'm curious, from your perspective, why this event? Obviously you heard why I wanted you to be part of it, but why did you decide to be part of it?
Because of you. I want to hang out with you.
That's awesome.
Because I'm your
and fun in the
person.
sun, right?
But yes,
fun
exactly.
In the sun,
I'm in
Florida.
Minnesota. Are you kidding me? Florida, from Minnesota, I'm going. Anytime that opens up.
Right.
But I don't even care if it's July, I'll go. But seriously, when I heard about the different statistics, it's very similar to some of the athletes that I've worked with. Percentages of people that just don't even know what they're not doing correctly. But having people making sure that they set it up the right way, looking at beneficiary designations. Things happen, things change. If you just have it set up the right way, that's why I want to be a part of this, is because I'm so passionate that everything that they've worked for with their own business doesn't go away, that they have it for retirement, because that's what we all work for, it seems like, right? We want to.
Yes.
But then what's left? You want to have a legacy. It's not just the money, it's the values, the life lessons, everything else, and that's what my advisors will be able to help you with.
Yeah, the legacy is important, and I know that it's also important to folks in this industry. And like I said before, they work so hard that it's just a shame to not have more of that hard-earned money to be able to retire on. I know that when I'm old, eventually I will be in Florida as soon as possible. And as an FYI, in September, it can be pretty hot. I was at a football game there in September. It was about 100 degrees and sweaty. So it can be pretty hot in September. So bring shorts. Me either. But I'm excited about having you guys as part of this, because, when I retire, I want to be able to spend that time traveling and do the things that I want and go around the world or whatever it may be. And I know that they do as well. They just don't know how to get there. So from your perspective, I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked Fred and Neil. From your perspective, how do you think that this could change this industry, being that it doesn't really exist, no one's really talking about it, and we're really injecting it really, kind of right now as we speak?
What I think it's going to do, first of all, is it's going to build an awareness. And I think not just at the owner level, but also their employees. And being able to look at different products that will attract and retain key talent. I mean, there's different types of products that can be offered, in the form of benefits, life insurance, 401ks, all of that. I mean, that's all part of it. But you know what? Knowing which ones are best for your situation, and whether you're, a 3-person shop or a 30-shop. So I think that's what's going to be, the biggest impact that we can make, is just showing them the different options that are out there.
Mm-hmm. I agree, and just putting more money in their pocket. They work pretty hard to turn a profit, believe it or not. In some cases, and in most cases in this industry, it's not as easy to make money as it used to be. And so any kind of cash injection we can give them, both personally and professionally, is going to be huge. So thank you so much for your time. I'm glad to have you on here. We're going to wrap up with me. I'm excited too. I'm excited to have you, and thank you so much for all that you've done as an organizer so far. If you haven't heard of Hall of Fame Financial, please check Kathy out. Find her on the web. And I appreciate you being on.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to close out with me, boring old me, on the 2 topics that I'm going to discuss at this event. And they are 2 of the biggest, probably of the top 5 or 6 in the industry. and that is of growing, their loan balance and pawn balance and service charges, as well as growing your retail sales. And those are two big things that are a challenge in this industry right now. We're seeing a lot of lagging retail sales and people saying that, the loan balance is decreasing simply because they think that, number one, millennials don't loan, and number two, there's less and less items that are of value out there. And so we want to educate you that that's not necessarily the case. But before we do that, I want to talk to you about my background a little bit. I'm the founder of Devoted Pawn Consulting, and I really got into the pawn business, over a decade ago by mistake. I got into it while I was in the corporate world, and I was doing, for lack of a better term, merger and acquisition. We were working for some guys that had an investment firm that really wanted to diversify their payday loan stores and things that they had. And while I was working for them on the side, they said, come in and help me, make these businesses more successful and more profitable. And so we did that. I came in and I did that, and I helped them. And we would acquire these stores and we would flip them just like you would flip a house. And we were incredibly successful at that. And so I got hooked. I really got hooked on that and turned it into a full-time venture. And so I started my own business and have never looked back. And as it pertains to, the conversation that we're going to be having and the training that we're going to do on site, we've created and trademarked a process called the pawn process. And maybe it should have a sexier name, but in reality, it's everything that you need to do within your four walls from an operational standpoint to allow your business to grow. And our average client right now in this environment and in this marketplace sees increases of 30% or more in loan balances and service charges because of that, and retail sales. And people are saying that retail sales are dead. We disagree in that we think that there's always going to be brick and mortar in this industry simply because of, the fact that we loan out of our brick and mortar locations. So I believe we have a leg up on all the other retail stuff that's out there. In addition to that, you're going to get to hear, obviously, from PawnMaster online sales and how that ties into your business. So we think that this is a great deal. We've always attended many, many events every year, and we get to, as Steve said, we get to as many as possible, just like him. We typically attend 3 major ones every year and then a couple regional. We're at Midwest every year, and we'll be again this year, as well as Kappa and, the big expo at NPA in Las Vegas. And so, we try to do more. We've been to Dixie. We'd like to get back down there because that seems to be a pretty good show. But we are and do have time constraints as well as we continue to grow our business. And we have cycles just like the pawnbrokers do. So we are very well versed on how these events go, and that's why we really decided to put ours together in this format. And so how did this event come to be? The quickest and easiest thing to say is, honestly, I've had clients begging us to do it for 5 or 6 years. And that's the God's honest truth. I didn't really think that, 5 or 6 years ago that I had the support or even the experience to do it. And now I feel like we're surrounded by all stars, not only on my team, but also these other organizers and speakers that are here. I think, the people that are on this call and doing this webinar are second to none in the industry. And so I feel like we are ready to do that. People constantly said they want something new and something fresh. They get tired of maybe seeing some of the same presenters or the same presentations. If they go to Midwest, they might see it at Midwest and see it again in Las Vegas, or they have to pick and choose between who they want to see because of the different breakout sessions being at the same time. We're not going to do that. The other reason that I decided to do it is I've been on the other side of it. I've been a vendor and I've paid a ton of money to come to these conventions, and trying to sell your services to somebody that doesn't really want to see you, doesn't really want to come in there unless they're really looking for your services in particular, is challenging on both ends of it. But I can see the angst in the face of the pawnbrokers. They don't want to be sold to. They just want someone to help them. And that's really the biggest reason that this event came to be, because we're a huge fan of bringing education on topics like wealth management, like compliance, that just does not exist out there at all in different settings, and even honestly how to prepare your business for sale. So, how do I think this event will help the industry? Honestly, I think it's going to bring solutions that don't exist. And there's going to be more stuff when we do it again next year. There's another huge void in this industry, which I believe is the tax business and the CPA side of it. But we want to bring solutions to the industry that are not readily available right now, such as wealth management, retirement planning, benefits. Benefits is a huge one. You know, who offers benefits in this industry? It just doesn't exist. We want it to be pure education with no strings attached. You're not going to get high pressure sold. You're going to come and learn. We'll probably smoke a few cigars together with you, and we're going to have some fun down there in Florida. The place, you know, really is going to be about education, collaboration, and networking. That's kind of been our coined phrase. And we are going to, and our goal is going to be to allow pawnbrokers to enjoy life more now and as they get ready and near retirement. And that's really where we're at. And so, you know, that brings a kind of a close to our presentation today. I'm so excited to be associated with these folks. You know, I want to thank, you know, once again, the presenters. We've got, you know, Len Suma and Christian that are on from Pawn Master. We've got Dave Griffith from Pawn Compliance on his topic, Steve Stallcup. We've got Neil and Fred on the wealth management side and saving money, you know, on the tax side of it, and then Kathy and myself. So thank you so much, guys, for being part of it. If you want to find out more on how to register for this event, you can go to pawnconference.com, or you can find us on the website there, or you can call us directly at 727-580-5876. The website is a great resource. It's a short URL, pawnconference.com. You can find out everything you want about all of these presenters and the others that were not on this call, to find out more about their background and what they're going to be presenting on there. So we thank you so much for being here, and everyone have a wonderful day and more to come from this great event.